Welcome to the What Now podcast, where we document our journey through chiropractic. Our goal is to give you, the new chiropractor, our firsthand experience in running a principled, cash-based practice right out of school. Join us as we bring you real perspective, lessons learned, and the leading names in the profession as we build the practices of our dreams. Yo, everybody, what is up? Welcome back to another DoloCast episode of the What Now podcast. I just posted our episode with Dr. Morgan Plantamura / Isles, depending on how you know her, but with Truly Chiropractic in Austin. So
That's an awesome episode.
It was really good. If you haven't listened to it, queue it up to come up right after this one. It was really good. So, what's up, Zach?
What it do? Yeah, that last week's episode was awesome. If you did listen, you'll notice I too was more so listening than engaging. So it's definitely an area of focus area of focus that I can grow in as a podcast host.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we have just had such really awesome guests on recently that sometimes I do catch myself just listening, and so shout out to all of our guests who have been coming on. You guys are powerhouses, and I feel like we've had really high quality guest episodes. It's been really great. So
for sure.
Yeah, shout out to y'all. What do we want to get into today, Zachary?
So we want to get into, I'm excited for this, but talking about your experience in particular and your transition into utilizing Patch by Dr. Jeremy DuPont, and how that has been going and what all that entails, and then talking a little bit about my experience running Facebook ads and things of that nature. So
yeah,
what's going on, Spencer?
It's been good. I didn't know that Jeremy's actually not a physical therapist. He's not a PT, bro. He has a kinesiology degree, and he went to occupational therapy school, I think. And so he is a manual therapist. He's not a PT. He just opened up Ripple after working in a corporate place, and he really quickly after opening Ripple just dipped out, hired a bunch of PTs, and so it's pretty cool, dude. He really understands the physical therapy, cash-based therapy market, and how to market to them digitally, and how to leverage software. Dude, Jeremy was only in practice
I think his story is 6 to 12 months.
Yeah, a year or two, and then he's fully out now. He lives their practice is in Boston, and he lives in Maine, and he just skis for a living. It's pretty cool. We'll have to have Jeremy on. I need to reach out to him and talk to him about that. But so the Patch system is, you guys have probably heard about it, but from me, if you haven't, but Patch system is a CRM company. So what they do is, Patch is a marketing company, and they use the customer relationship manager called HubSpot to build your new patient and marketing and acquisition flywheel. So basically they manage your patients and your customers and your clients through their entire journey, all the way from people who visit your website all the way to people who are under care with you. I got in contact with the Patch team through our guy Jared Moon, because Patch, I think if I understand its origin correctly, it's a brainchild of PT Biz, which is Jared and Danny Matei's company. They are a coaching and consulting company, kind of like the Wealthy Practitioner, kind of like Chiro Intensive. They basically, I would say, actually is like Chiro Intensive, but for PTs. That's probably the most parallel that I would draw to it. They host a mastermind. They have a yearly event. They do intensive programming. They have a startup course, all that stuff, but solely geared around physical therapists. And I know Jared because he was on the podcast and he lives in Argyle, and he told me about Jeremy and the Patch team and how we needed to get on it, because Jared was like, hey, you don't market at all and you need to get on that. And so I was like, okay, sounds good. So so I got in touch with Jeremy, and dude, Patch is awesome. I think it is probably the most comprehensive marketing company that I've worked with. They're really awesome. They do a lot more than just run, dude, they've told me everything about email marketing, SEO, Google ads, Facebook ads, lead magnet marketing, customer retention, client transition, all kind of stuff. So it's been really, really good.
And how long?
I signed up with Patch at the exact same time that I signed up with Steph, like in the same week.
Okay.
And so we started.
Now knowing the numbers, it's a
pretty
costly week.
Yeah, but honestly, yeah, it was a really big investment. That's really when I just kind of decided that in our practice, like, bro, like, I was like, you know what, I'm tired of playing small, and we're gonna go all in. And like, you got to spend money to make money. You have to invest in yourself and invest in the right tools to be able to leverage your practice to another level. And so that's why I was like, well, we're gonna get Steph and we're gonna get Patch. And honestly, one of the reasons why I think Caitlin really told me, like, yeah, you need to coach with Steph. But one of the reasons why I decided coaching with Steph was such a good idea at the level that we do it is because Patch was so expensive. And so if I was going to invest in something as intense as Patch and involved as Patch, then I needed to also have a coach that could help me use Patch the best way I could. And build my business around it. Since they are a PT company, I needed to understand how this was going to work with chiropractors too. So especially in the prenatal ped space.
Yeah,
we started in January.
Okay, cool. And obviously, them being a PT, I don't know if they do much for like pelvic floor. I personally, for the listeners, am just starting. Like, I just got access to HubSpot last night, so I haven't done anything with them other than sign up. But very, very excited and kind of consuming a lot of Jeremy's content at the moment, just so I have a good understanding of what I'm getting myself into. But what would you say are some, without giving away too much, right? And especially if we want to have Jeremy on, what would you say have been some things that you're like, I would have never even thought of this? Like, what did Patch bring to your awareness as a practitioner and business owner?
Oh, well, like, dude, I wasn't doing any marketing. Like, I wasn't doing any marketing at all. And so Patch really like taught me about like how much you can personalize and automate a lot of conversations at the same time. And so, like, dude, Patch basically took like every spreadsheet, every checklist, everything that I was tracking on Excel or all that stuff and put it into one platform. And that's what's the best, because not only does it track, like, it tracks your emails, it tracks your open rate, it tracks how many clients you have, what they pay, it tracks your OVA, your lifetime value of your customer, it tracks your client acquisition, tracks your website data, it tracks your social media engagement, it tracks all of that stuff, and it can get like as much or as little as you want it to do. If you wanted just to send emails, I would say that HubSpot's probably too intense. Like, just get something like MailChimp because it's pretty cheap, and it integrates with a lot of softwares. But Patch, like, my whole goal was really just to get where I only had to use two things: Jane, our EHR, and Patch. Because the whole point with Jane, and like the big hurdle with Jane, is that people always say like Jane is tough for high volume, and it can get really busy and a really manual, like, it can get where you have like a lot of manual tedious tasks with Jane when you get to a higher volume, like crossing over that like 150 to 200 mark. But with Patch, it automates a lot of those things that you would have to do with Jane, and so it keeps my software a lot cheaper, and I get more bang for my buck, like with what I get with Patch, instead of having to have a bunch of different softwares. So I mean, dude, it brought to my awareness of like how little I was communicating with my patients outside of like them on the table and table talking. So I think it's really cool, like, and not just patients who are like, not just people who are already in my practice, but like it was helping me communicate with people who are outside of the practice as well.
Yeah, and I think that's one thing that I'm excited on is the way Jeremy, like, from what I've seen, talk about more of like the flywheel versus the funnel approach.
Yep.
Where as soon as someone gets to the end of your funnel, it's just kind of like, all right, like, that's it. Like, and if they didn't sign on, or if they didn't, come into the office or anything like that, they're just kind of moved to a dead lead, and that's about it. But more of that flywheel approach. So, what have you?
Can you tell people what a flywheel is, like, versus a funnel?
Yeah. So from my understanding, a funnel is basically, say you have a Facebook ad, and if you're like, I don't know what Facebook ads are all about. If you've seen, you get Facebook ads, right? Like, you see whether it's for clothes or for food or whatever it is. You see Facebook and Instagram ads. So say you click to learn more, you put your information in, you then become a lead for that company, right? And that's for most people, you get put into more of a funnel. So you become like a cold lead, and then there might be some nurture, there might be some cold outreach, and then from there you just kind of work down the funnel until you go from cold lead, warm lead, maybe you book an appointment or you buy something or you don't. And then you're just at the bottom of the funnel, just sitting there. Versus from my understanding of a flywheel, it's a revolving circle. So you become a lead, there's attraction around it. Maybe you see a Google ad or you see a Facebook ad, and then you're just constantly being nurtured. And it's not necessarily like a 7 touch points and then there's no 8th, but it's just this constant flywheel from my understanding.
Yeah, like the way I understand it, like a funnel, I mean, it's just like a funnel you would pour like liquid through, right? It's like a big wide thing at the top. Like they're trying to get as many people to look at this one thing, like Facebook ads or whatever. Like, hey, look at this shirt or whatever. Like I get bird dogs ads all the time, which they're really funny and they're really good and they get my attention. But I don't need pants right now. So,
but
anyway,
you would hope, or bird dog would hope that when you do need pants, you think of them.
Then I think of them. Right. Yeah. And so that's like their whole thing is they're like trying to just keep me in the top of this funnel as much as they can, like just keeping their content in front of me. And so that you just kind of like move through their sales process and eventually you just drop out because you're like, oh, that's it. Like they didn't buy. And so that's it. Where the flywheel, like it just keeps you consistently engaged. Like for us, like there are people they'll fill out a contact form saying, hey, I'm looking for an appointment. And then they'll decide like, hey, this is not the right time for me. And so instead of just letting them be like, well, this person can never come in here again, what HubSpot does is it puts them in that flywheel where it's saying, hey, I know you didn't want to come in. And in 3 months, it'll check back in with them saying like, hey, look, I know we talked before. Just wanted to know if you had, if it was the right time for chiropractic for you now, or if we could have a conversation about what it looks like for you to come in, like, or did you ever find a chiropractor, those kind of things. Right. So it just reaches back out to people without letting them just kind of like disappear off of your radar. And that's the same thing with your new client flywheel, but then there is a potential client flywheel where it's like people who have come in for an initial and they're like working through your process of your customer journey to becoming established under care. And then there are people who are under care and then people who are under care and dropped off of care. And so it just keeps people engaged with you. It's been really good for us. And I think it's Tony Ebel has a really, really awesome flywheel framework for a pediatric practice in the PX membership, which is really good. So if you guys have access to that, go into his marketing section and you can look at that. And basically what you want to do is you just take that, and I sent it to Jeremy and I said, hey, this is the concept behind prenatal pediatrics marketing. And can you make HubSpot do this for me?
Which is awesome to be able to leverage the two together and not have to recreate and come up with everything on your own.
Yeah.
So I think that's essentially vital, especially in a capacity and just quick return as well, because you're not like studying for 6 months on, okay, this is working, that's not working. It's like, this is what works, right? And there's always testing too.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think like the big thing like with Patch is that like, dude, they're so smart, like in the team over there, like Kelly, who writes all of our blogs, and Allie, who builds all of our animations. Like Jeremy just does a lot of the branding and marketing for Patch, and he does like some of the onboarding and stuff. But they have a whole team that's like really, really, really awesome, and they're all super young and really trendy. So like they all like know like what's up. Like we're not like, they're people like you can message all of them. They're like real people. They get on a call with you. They just use technology really, really well to be able to like leverage in their small company. It's really awesome. And they get really personal with you, and they really learn like about my business a lot. And so that I think is really important, is that like the Patch guys and the Patch team, like they know me and they know my practice and they know my vision and goals. And so they're able to tailor my messaging and my workflows and my automations based off of what my practice needs. It's not like a cookie cutter, like, oh, hey, like we're just gonna put your logo on our ad and we're gonna run it and see what's up. Because now like in those blogs, like the blogs sound like it's our practice. The blogs have our branding. The blogs have our messaging behind it. Yeah. So it takes some time like to teach them about your practice, especially because they're PTs, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's where I'm excited to work with them, being more in that performance space. is not that it'll be like plug and play, but there won't be that education behind it of like, no, we're like pediatric, and so like that doesn't necessarily work. Now, will it still be different than a PT office? Absolutely, but similar ideas and concepts.
Yeah. What are you like? What was like the deciding factor for you to be like, hey, this is what I need? Like, how do people know if this is like a thing that they need or not?
My answer is going to be different than most people, and I texted it to you last week when I signed up. I was just like, I realized I got to a moment where it was like, what has Spencer been telling me to do for the last 9 months? And HubSpot was the biggest one. And so, not that I wanted to copy you, but I was like, if he's having success with it, and I really like the philosophy and the idea around what Jeremy talks about. I reached out. I had my consultation call. I basically wanted to have him tell me not to do it, and there was no reason not to. And we're at a point where we're kind of at a tipping scale of what we can do office-wise. And I just wanted to, one, kind of test. We've been running Facebook ads for a little over a year now, and they've been at times really fruitful, and then at other times really poor. And so really wanted to dial in consistency and simplicity for both myself and my staff in regards to our marketing calendar and our new patient acquisition.
Yeah. I just want to talk a little bit about like, dude, what it's going to do for you. Like, just because, like I'm not affiliated with Patch, like other than the fact that I'm a client of theirs,
Yeah.
so I use them, but I don't get anything. Jeremy, if you listen, bro, you need to pay me for all the people that are signing up. But,
about to start coming in.
Yeah. But like I was looking at, so the other day when you asked like what's the ROI like on Patch, and
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know. I've actually never looked at that. So I was like, let me go look at my stats. From the moment that I looked at like our website traffic. That's a big one, is that they are trying to get more website traffic over to our people, like over to our website, and because that's how you get leads. That's how people reach out to book with us. And so just on our website, this isn't people who, this isn't from our internal referrals. This is just from our website. Our web traffic for 2023 was 17,000 unique visitors. And now our web traffic on our website is 56,000 year to date as of September. So it's like a 427% increase in web traffic over 9 months, which is crazy. When they added on the SEO part of Patch and they started working on SEO, and dude, like, listen, for all of our listeners out there, if you are in practice and you're trying to do your own website, and you like, I built my own website, but I kind of did it through the way that people are like, you can build your own website and make it look like you want, but it's not going to work the way that you want it to. When I gave them control over our website, SEO wise, which is search engine optimization, it's going to basically be like, how high do you rank on Google? I went from number 22, so showing up like on like the third or fourth page of Google, to number 1, and for like Empower Chiropractic, Pediatric Chiropractic, chiropractic for kids, chiropractic for pregnancy. For a majority of that, we are number 1, like in all of our niche specific search terms within 20 miles. And then number 2 for Argyle Chiropractor. We don't have Argyle Chiropractor in our name or anything like that. The only reason we're number 2 is because there's another practice called Argyle Chiropractic. And we'll always show up number 2 for that, because you can't beat the exact thing that you're looking for. Like, you'll never beat that. And so, like, it has blown up our exposure, which has been really, really good.
Yeah.
And it's been super cost effective. Like, we spend like almost nothing on ads, and our cost of acquisition is super low, which increases our profit, which means we can spend less marketing dollars to get higher quality clients.
Right.
It's been pretty solid.
And I think too, just in case you're listening, you're like, what does all that mean? So basically, if Spencer is spending, for simple math, $100, his cost per acquisition may be $10 or $20, right? And so he's having to spend X amount to get that many new patients and just have them come in, which I don't know if you want to share your actual numbers for cost per
Yeah,
acquisition.
I mean, dude, I don't care about the numbers because they're going to change, right? Like, I mean,
Yeah.
as of now. Okay, so like cost of acquisition is basically how many for you to put an advertisement out there, like to say like, hey, come into my practice, right? If I spend $100 and 10 people look at it, my cost per view is $10, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then if one person comes in out of those 10, I'm pretty sure the cost of acquisition is the $90, right? Or like if one person out of it, no, it's actually $100 because I put out $100, 10 people looked at it, that one person came in, so it cost me $100 to get one person in.
Mm-hmm.
If two people would come in off of those $100, now my cost of acquisition is $50. If that makes sense, right?
Mm-hmm.
How much money do you have to spend on ads for somebody to come into your door? That's cost per acquisition. So
Mm-hmm.
right now we spend $500 a month on just Google ads. Basically, all it does is it just bumps us to the top of Google for whatever search term they're looking for. So pregnancy chiropractor, kids chiropractor, baby chiropractor, whatever. And we spend $500, and our cost of acquisition is like $52. So that means that we get 10 for every $500 we spend, we get 10 new patients off of that, which is
Mm-hmm.
great.
Yeah.
So that means that it.
I mean, you're just so we're when you're saying cost per like acquisition, you're saying that as they're coming through the door and they've done it day one.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. From they look me up on the website to they sit in the chair for the consult.
Which is so just the reason I wanted to make sure is because there's also cost per lead, which is how much dollars you have to spend to get someone to fill out a form, basically.
Yeah. So our cost per lead is $17.
Yeah.
Our cost per acquisition is $54. Our cost per click, so how much money do we have to spend for someone to click on our ad, is $2.36. So we have a ton of people that click on it. Some of those people fill out a form, and then of those people who fill out a form, they actually come in, right? So all of that, like when they click, the $2 they click,
Mm-hmm.
the $17 whenever they blah 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 fill out the form, all that totals up to $54 for us.
Right.
So when they come in, that's how much it costs me to get in the door. So I can't charge $60 for my initial visit because I'm only making $2 on that visit.
Yeah.
Because it cost me $50 something to get them in. I'm only making $10. This is why, like, unless your ads are absolutely crushing, it would be really hard to run like a $47 new patient special. If it cost you $50 to get people in the door, it actually you're losing $3 every time you have that visit.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I didn't understand until I started working with Jeremy and he started looking at my numbers and everything, because he said, like, how about you just get way higher quality patients and fewer of them, because then it's going to be way easier to work with them. And that's the big thing too, is like, it's not all about pumping your numbers, but your numbers tell you how effective you're being.
Mm-hmm.
When you know your numbers,
your marketing and your systems. And
yeah,
like
when you know
processes.
your numbers, it's letting you know how effective you're being, right? Like, it's like in basketball or in football or something like that. You know, like if in basketball, I'm scoring 30 points, but I'm taking 100 shots to score 30 points and I'm only making 15 out of my 100 shots, I'm probably hogging the ball and I'm not taking good shots. But if I'm scoring 30 points off of 15 shots, because it's 2 points every shot, 100%, dude, I'm taking great shots. I'm a great basketball player and I'm being really effective, right? The shooting percentage is a reflection of the decision making and the choices and how your mindset around what you're doing. And so if it's costing you a lot of money to get patients, or your patients aren't sticking around for a long time because your PVA is really low, or they're not paying you a lot of money and your OVA is really low, that's a sign around the mindset that you have around those things. And that's us saying, okay, we need to lean into this stat.
Yeah.
So, and it's good because, like, when you hire an outside company like Patch, because they can say, hey, like, this is a number that's kind of low. Like, what do we need to do to influence that? Like, what do you need to change to see influence in that? And they can come from an outside perspective and say, like, hey, I think you need to work on this next based off of your marketing and what you're telling me your goals are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So to dive into marketing a little bit more, Zach, like, because like I don't want people to think like, oh, for me to do marketing, I need to get this really robust program or anything like that. This is after we've already laid the groundwork in our practices for marketing. Because paid marketing and customer, all this stuff that we're talking about is really the tip of the pyramid. What are those base layers that people need to set up in their practice to then get to a place for paid marketing?
If I'm understanding your question correctly, I think one of the biggest things is you can't, and you and I have talked about this a ton, is you can't just like sit in your office and hope for people to come. I think getting involved in your community, and there's so many different ways to do that. You don't just have to be going to a BNI or like a chamber. I know with some people, BNIs are not fruitful at all. It's very dependent on the group and your style of whatever it might be. But I think a great way to get involved, pending your hobbies or whatever they might be, is to join like a fitness group or join like a more workout class type gym, especially if you're new in the community. That's a great way to meet people and find what you like. Don't just like, oh, I heard Orange Theory is good, I'm going to go try it out. Like, go try it out. But then there's plenty of other like options to go check out as well. So I think that's one of the biggest things is being in your community, showing up at community events, whether that be golf tournaments or whatever it might be. There's so many different ways to get out there. And then on top of that, I mean, I've always been a big fan of screenings. I think they're a great way, especially when time is on your side, leveraging those to at least get in front of people. And that's another exciting thing. Another thing I'm excited about with Patch is they actually have like email drip campaigns specific for screenings, which we've never had in the past, which is going to be awesome. But I think screenings, I mean, it's all going to come down to getting out of your office and going to meet people. But then also, what are you doing in your office? What are you doing to what is your table talk like? What is the experience like? Are people, we talked with Morgan last week about creating that experience that people are not just getting great results. I think that's also super important. Then also they're like, wow, this is a place I would recommend my family to come to, or those type of things.
Yeah, they understand what's up. I think to kind of bow that up, if you guys are in the wealthy practitioner framework and you're learning a lot of Steph's things, if you're not, you definitely should be, because a lot of these concepts, and I'm not like just talking like hearing about the concepts, but like it's the way that like it's put across where it's like applicable. You can see it how you're doing it in your practice and you understand it. And so like a lot of people talk about the base of the triangle is going to be your internal referrals. Like this is going to be the base of your marketing strategy. But I think even deeper than that, and something that needs to be established before your internal referrals, like getting patients to send you more patients. If I send Caitlin, like that's an internal referral. But I think something more foundational than internal referrals for growing a practice is going to actually be your community reputation. Because, I mean, like even for me, like whenever I first started, like I don't have patients in my practice. I didn't know anybody in my town. And so what I had to do is go out and make a name for myself and get to know people. Because if nobody knows who you are, if you just are saying like, oh yeah, I'm going to have a referral only practice, an internal referral only practice, and you just sit chilling in your practice all the time, you're not going to have anybody to refer people to you. So you need to go out and network and get in your BNI and get in your chamber of commerce and become like, be the mayor. Is what everybody always says is like, get out there and let people know who you are, because then they'll start to know you. Because if people like and trust you, then they'll want to do business with you. And then once they do business with you, they already know, like, and trust you. So then they will start to send their friends, because they're like, oh, you need to see my guy. You need to see my guy. That's what Simon Floriani always says. Like, the more that you know, the better reputation that you have, and the more that you believe in what you do, then people will be like, you need to see my guy. And, or my gal, whichever. Anyway. So once you like go to your networking, go to your BNI, get involved in the community, join a fitness group, make friends with other business owners, that's going to help you do that. Then you can set up your internal referrals where you have good education, you deliver great results, you ask people for reviews and those kind of things. And so then after you have your internal referrals kind of set up, Zach, what is the next thing that you're going to focus on?
There's so many different ways you can go about it, from internal referrals to kind of what I'd mentioned, getting more back out in the community. I would, again, if you're collecting emails, a free thing you can do is just start a weekly newsletter where you're dropping, and it could just be like mine today was a conversation I had with Morgan like a month ago, and I was like, oh, that'd be a really good topic to cover in a weekly email, and that way you're just staying top of mind to either current patients or people that you've come in contact with. Now, that's not to say go to the chamber event and try to get as many business cards as you can and put them into your MailChimp. Like, that's a really great way to annoy people.
Yeah.
Create a bad reputation. But if people have like legitimately given you their contact information, I think that's a great way.
Yeah, I mean, that's like what I think is like the next tier of after you have your internal referrals. So like getting your customer experience right, understanding your table talk, getting educational materials to the people who are already under your care that have come in from your community. The next thing to do is to then build an organic social presence, which is your newsletter, your website, your social media. Because this is the thing, dude, you don't even need a website. Like, you really don't need a website. You could have, I mean, I know a lot of people that don't have a website. They only have a booking link.
Yeah.
Like, it's not a website. It's literally just, here's my calendar. And like some people do, they don't even have like a EHR calendar. It's just a Google calendar, or like in their Apple calendar. They're like, oh yeah, I'll book you. So you don't need a website. You don't need a website. A website just helps people find you. Same thing with your social media and your with your social media and with your newsletter, right? Those are ways for people to get to know you at a deeper level, and that's going to then leverage your internal referrals. Like you said, like you've noticed that, since you started writing your newsletters and all of those things, send them out, you've noticed a big increase in your internal referrals. That's because you're being vulnerable with people. You're letting people kind of behind the curtain. You're giving them some insider information so they can know you on a deeper level, and then that helps educate them.
And I think too, just to kind of hit on that, it's like I had a company that was writing weekly emails for me, and it was pretty good. Like, the emails were great, but it wasn't coming from me. So like, I mean, my mom would comment, but even patients would be like, oh, like, I didn't know you really like wrote like that. Like, it doesn't sound like you.
Yep.
And so what I've done is trained AI, right? Leveraging all the technology you can, trained AI to write as if I would, and a couple other people to then come up with the idea. So it takes probably 20 to 30 minutes a week to come up with my email. And we're on like our 5th or 6th one doing it ourselves. And it's been game changer. And I think that's a really big point, is being authentic and being you, both in the office, but then with your marketing and everything. So if you're consistently copying or kind of using a template of other people and they're getting great results, you may not necessarily get those same results, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I think a big thing is like, well, you're saying other people's message for them, right? Like, you're singing somebody else's song, and so it might work great for them, but it might not work great for you. Like, I'm a prenatal and pediatric chiropractor, and I'm super passionate around like the sensory kids stuff. And so like, if I'm out here talking about the hip hinge, even though I know a ton of stuff about it, people will be like, why are you talking like this? Is not, unless I'm talking about like during your pregnancy, like you need to blah, 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 and why it's important for your kids' milestones to develop. But if I'm talking about like loading your spine, like in weightlifting and everything, like that's just off brand for me. And people will be like, dude, what are you doing? And like, I have like a really casual and dry like tone of voice. And so like, I'm really direct and I keep things like really upfront with people. And so if I start to be like, oh my gosh, everybody, hey, welcome. This is going to be the most spectacular, fun, blah, blah, blah. Like, some of my emails used to actually sound like that because I had AI write them. And I said, like, come from a prenatal and pediatric chiropractor. And so it was saying, like, ready to be a superhero and have the most fantabulous time. And everybody's like, this sucks. My open rate was like 1%. And then when you look at it, it's like nobody ever scrolled through the email. So, like, nobody's reading that stuff, dude, because it sounds like crap. And, like, there's like an energy behind like that lack of effort, I think, in your messaging. And so like working on yourself and like getting really clear on who you are is going to be actually the best way to blow up your practice, because it'll actually come across as you. And that's why like you can have like Zach and I could open the exact same practice literally next door to each other where they share a wall, and they would be super successful because Zach's personality is different than mine. And certain people are going to gravitate towards Zach. other people are going to gravitate toward me. And let's be real, if you have 500 patients and you're seeing 500 a week by yourself, like you could be working a lot. And so how many places, especially in Texas, have more than 500 people? So many of them.
Yeah.
Right? Like a small town in Texas is like 3,000 people. And so if you see a tenth of those people, if you see 300 out of that small town, like you have a full practice.
Yep.
And so like, I think that's a big thing in chiropractic is we need to get back to our message, what it means to us personally, and use tools like Patch to deploy that message more effective way. But it starts with your self-work.
For sure. So much gold in that.
Yeah. And so, I mean, after your organic social and your organic marketing, like just giving people free game, then that's when you throw on the paid marketing, like the Google ads and everything. Because if you have a bad reputation and you show up everywhere on Google, people will be like, this guy is annoying and arrogant and all over the place. Like, I hate this guy, and they're going to block your ads or whatever. But if you have a good reputation, if you have good content, if people say good things about you, you have good Google reviews, then when you show up in front of people, they're going to be like, oh man, I've heard great things about this place. Everyone says that I need to come here. And so I decided, well, I need to figure it out for myself.
Yeah.
And that's when that's when your marketing dollars are actually going to be effective. Because if you don't have a good reputation and people aren't saying good things about you and you're not getting good results and nobody can find you on the internet and nobody knows what you look like, then you're going to have to pay a lot of money to get people in the door.
Yep. Couldn't agree more.
So cool. Anything else to feel like to add?
No.
If you were, okay, last tip. If you were starting today, if this was day one of your practice and you've hung your shingle and you're unlocking your door for the first time, what would be the first thing that you would do, Zach?
I say it all the time, but start writing weekly emails. To me, that, at least to my demographic, being that middle-aged professional, more male-centric. There's a little bit on Instagram and like TikTok, but they're in their emails all day, right?
Yep.
So showing up there consistently from the jump would be best.
Nice. My one thing that I would do the day after I unlock my door for the first time is I would turn the lights off, I would close the door, I would lock the deadbolt, and I would walk into the closest business possible, and I would introduce myself. And then I would walk out of that business and I would do it to the next one and the next one and the next one. I would meet every single person within 2 miles, because this is the thing is like you can go so far. You can drive 20 minutes and stuff, but like there's so many people that are so close to you. And I would go to the closest place and I would build a relationship with them. And as long as it makes sense for you, like I'm not gonna be the chiropractor. I'm not gonna go to, I mean, who knows? Maybe I will go to the UPS office and
that is like, I guess that was just something I like kind of thought was second nature, but like going and introducing myself to the businesses like in our strip, because we're in a strip mall. I mean, there are people that had been in business for like 8-9 years, and they're like, oh, like we've never really had like I heard one, like there's a personal training gym. They're like, oh, it's a good idea to like go introduce yourself to. I'm like, yeah, I just kind of thought you just go introduce yourself to your neighbors.
Yep. So that's how it is, man. All right. Well, thanks, guys. Let us know if you have any questions. Hit us up in the DMs. Thanks so much for listening to the podcast. And go listen to Morgan's episode. It was really, really good. All right, guys. Peace. Thanks so much for listening to this episode of the What Now podcast. If you took something valuable away, feel free to share it with a friend, post it on your socials, or give us a 5-star review. We'll see y'all next time. Peace.